Hey, I'm a psychiatrist, and a few months back, I came across a post on social media where a person was talking about their interaction with a 9-year-old family member, and this one member had autism, and this person said something that stopped me in my tracks. During the video, they said he, referring to this kid with autism, can possibly have real feelings about XYZ because he has autism. You know, I had to pause as a psychiatrist because in that moment, I realized that this is a common thought in our society. This idea that autistic people don't have feelings. Well, it's absolutely wrong, and it creates this massive misunderstanding about what autism actually is. So today I'm breaking down 4 myths about autism that need to go. Because these aren't just misconceptions, they are beliefs that shape how people with autism get treated in schools, in relationships, in healthcare, and in their everyday lives. If you're new here, I'm Dr. J. I'm a medical doctor specializing in psychiatry, and my sole goal is to make mental health make sense for you. Our very first myth is autistic people lack empathy. Now, this is probably the most damaging one I hear, and this shows up everywhere. In movies, autistic characters are portrayed as robotic or cold. In real life, people assume that if someone's autistic, they don't care about others' feelings. But the truth is, autistic people absolutely have empathy. What's different is how they express it and how they process social information. Now, let me help you see this. I want you to think about someone at a funeral. You see, a neurotypical person might cry, hug people, and say, "I am so sorry for your loss." On the other hand, an autistic person might not cry visibly, they might not know what to say, they might even seem uncomfortable or detached, but that doesn't mean they don't feel the sadness. Their internal experiences might be just as intense, maybe even more intense, but they're processing it differently or expressing that sadness in ways that don't match typical social expectations. That's actually a concept in autism research called double empathy problem. The idea is that neurotypical people struggle to understand autistic people's communication style just as much as autistic people struggle to understand neurotypical communication. Now, it's not a one-way street. It's a mismatch in communication styles, and both sides have trouble reading each other. For example, an autistic person might show that they care by dumping a lot of information about a special interest to cheer you up when you're sad, or they might offer practical solutions to your problem instead of an emotional comfort that you were hoping for. You see, that's not lack of empathy, that's just a different way of expressing care. Research actually shows that autistic people often have heightened emotional sensitivity. They feel things deeply. What can really be challenging is recognizing social cues or knowing the expected way to respond in the moment. You see, when we label autistic people as lacking empathy, we're measuring them against a neurotypical standard. And I hate to say this, but we're missing the actual empathy that's there, but just being expressed differently. Our second myth is autism is caused by bad parenting or vaccines. Okay, this one has been thoroughly debunked, but somehow it keeps coming back. And that is autism is caused by bad parenting or vaccines. Let's start with the parenting one. This myth comes from the 1950s when a psychologist named Leo Kanner and later Bruno Bettelheim blamed refrigerator mothers, who they described as cold and emotionally distant, for causing autism. This was never based on real science, and it caused a massive harm to many families. But even today, I still see parents blaming themselves, wondering if they did something wrong during pregnancy or even the early childhood of their child to cause the child's condition. However, here's what we actually know. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition, which means it's about how the brain develops, likely starting even before birth. Genetics also play a huge role. Studies show that if one identical twin is autistic, the other twin has a 70 to 90% chance of also being autistic. That's a pretty convincing genetic influence. Now let's talk about vaccines. The infamous 1998 study by Andrew Wakefield that claimed the link between MMR vaccines and autism, well, that study was retracted. Wakefield lost his medical license, and since then, dozens of large-scale studies involving millions of children have found zero connection between vaccines and autism. Zero. However, I do understand why some folks may get this wrong. One reason is because autism symptoms often become noticeable around 18 to 24 months, which also happens to be when kids get several vaccines. But as a lot of us know, and you hear this a lot in science, correlation is not causation. The autism was already there. It's just becoming more apparent as the child develops. The bottom line is, autism is a complex interplay of genetic and environmental factors, all during brain development. It's not caused by parenting style or vaccine vaccines or anything a parent or child didn't do. Okay, our third myth is all autistic people are the same, or this idea that if you've met one autistic person, you've met them all. Or people even assume that every autistic person is either nonverbal or they're a math genius like in the movies. Well, here's the thing. Autism is called a spectrum for a reason, and not just a spectrum from mild to severe. That's actually an outdated way of thinking about this. It's more like a multidimensional spectrum where different people have different combinations of strengths and challenges. Okay, let me give you a concrete example of this. So, one autistic person might be verbal, hold a full-time job, and live independently, but they might also struggle intensely with sensory overload, needing significant downtime to recover from social situations. Another autistic person might be nonverbal, need support with daily living activities, but have incredible visual spatial skills or memory. You see, the DSM-5 actually moved away from subcategories like Asperger's, and now instead they use things like autism spectrum disorder with levels of support needed. So level 1 requiring support, and level 2 requiring substantial support, and level 3 requiring very substantial support. This new categorization recognizes that autism presents differently across various individuals. Now, I want you to think about someone who's autistic and works as a software engineer. They might excel at pattern recognition and focused work, but when you put them in a loud office with fluorescent lights and constant interruptions, they are completely overwhelmed. And that's not mild autism. That's someone with specific strengths and specific support needs. Or I want you to think about someone who's nonverbal, but uses something called AAC, which is these really cool devices known as augmentative and alternative communication devices. You can find pictures of this on Google or on YouTube. They're really cool devices. And these are to express thoughts and feelings. You see, they're not less intelligent. They're just communicating differently in a way that matches their abilities, right? The stereotype that all autistic people also have savant abilities, that is very wrong. About 10% of autistic individuals have savant skills, which means 90% don't. And that is totally okay. You see, when we assume that all autistic people are the same, we miss the individual in front of us. We miss the unique strengths, the specific challenges, and what they need to thrive. Our fourth myth is autism can be cured or outgrown. Here's what I really want you to hear, and that is autism is a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition. It's not a disease. It's not something broken that needs fixing. It's just a different way the brain is wired. Now, does that mean nothing can improve? No. Autistic people can learn great skills and coping strategies, and they can find supports that can help them navigate a neurotypical world. Early intervention like speech therapy, occupational therapy, or social skills training can make a huge difference in the quality of life. But that's not curing autism. That's supporting an autistic person to develop skills that help them function in environments that weren't designed for them. Think about this. And autistic adults might learn to mask, which means they may suppress their autistic traits to fit in socially. Now, from the outside, they might seem less autistic, but internally, they're still autistic. And masking is exhausting, and it often leads to burnout, anxiety, and depression. There's also this problematic idea that recovery from autism is the goal. The neurodiversity movement, which includes many autistic self-advocates, pushes back on this. They argue that autism isn't something to recover from. It's an identity, a way of being, and the goal shouldn't be to make autistic people normal. The goal should be to create a world where autistic people are accepted, accommodated, and valued. Now, if someone told you there's a cure for autism, whether it's a special diet or bleach enemas, and that's a real thing people have tried, or some intensive behavioral therapy that promises to eliminate all autistic traits, I want you to be extremely skeptical. These approaches can range from ineffective to genuinely harmful. You see, understanding these myths matters so much because they shape how autistic people are treated. When people believe that autistic individuals lack empathy, they dismiss their feelings. When people believe that vaccines cause autism, they put their kids at risk of preventable diseases. And when people assume that all autistic people are the same, they don't see the individual in front of them. And when people think autism needs to be cured, they communicate to autistic people that they're broken. So we need to listen to autistic people, not just parents of autistic kids or autism researchers, but include actual autistic adults who can tell you what their experience is like. The phrase "nothing about us without us" is huge in the autism community for a reason, and I stand by by that? I made this video because as a psychiatrist, I work with many patients with autism, and myths truly shape how autistic people are treated. So if this video helped add to your understanding of autism, then I think you'll want to watch this video right here that dives into an important overlapping symptom of autism and ADHD and how to tell them apart. Now, don't forget to drop a comment below about which one of these 4 autism myths stood out to you the most and why. I read and respond to every comment and look forward to chatting with you. In the meantime, I'm Dr. J, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.